In a world that moves with relentless speed, stillness feels almost unnatural. Everywhere you turn, there is noise disguised as urgency, movement disguised as progress, and reactions disguised as emotional depth. People speak before they think, respond before they feel, and act before they understand. Yet in this rush, something essential is lost: the ability to see clearly. Stillness is not inactivity. It is the art of perceiving what constant motion makes invisible. It is in stillness that truth rises from beneath the surface, like sediment settling in clear water after a storm. Most people misunderstand noise. They think noise is simply sound, arguments, chatter, opinions, the chaos of daily life. But noise is also internal. It is the overthinking that spins in circles, the emotional turbulence that turns small concerns into storms, the fear that whispers worst-case scenarios, and the impulses that push you to react before wisdom has time to awaken. When the mind is noisy, even the most obvious truths hide in plain sight. You misinterpret intentions, project insecurities, and grasp for solutions that only create further confusion. That is why stillness is powerful. It strips away illusions, allowing you to see people, situations, and yourself without distortion. Stillness begins with awareness. When you step back from your immediate emotional reaction and choose to observe rather than respond, you shift into a different level of consciousness. In that pause, you begin to notice subtleties that are usually drowned out by mental noise. You sense the real meaning behind someone's words, the true intention behind their actions, the energy beneath their behavior. You notice where your own emotions come from, whether they arise from fear, attachment, insecurity, or genuine intuition. This awareness becomes a kind of inner light, revealing truths you could not see when you were caught in the storm of impulsive thought. Many people fear stillness because they confuse it with emptiness. But stillness is fullness. It is a return to your inner center, where your perception is sharpest and your energy is strongest. When you become still, you stop searching outwardly for answers and begin listening inwardly to what life has been trying to tell you. The world does not suddenly change. Your ability to perceive it changes. The noise does not disappear. Your relationship to it becomes different. Instead of being pulled by every emotional wave, you become the steady ground beneath the waves, unmoved, observing with clarity. When you cultivate stillness, you also begin to see people differently. You no longer judge their character solely by what they say, because stillness teaches you that words often hide more than they reveal. You start to pay attention to energy, tone, consistency, intention. You notice when someone's actions do not match their promises, when their enthusiasm is surface level rather than sincere, when their affection is more about convenience than connection. These truths become visible only when your mind is quiet enough to perceive the subtle currents beneath appearances. And stillness reveals just as much about you. It shows you where you cling too tightly, where you react too quickly, where you betray your own boundaries in exchange for validation. It reveals the emotions you have suppressed, the fears you have decorated with excuses, the desires you pretend not to want. Noise hides these things because noise keeps you distracted. As long as you are busy reacting, reaching, and overthinking, you never have to face what is actually living inside you. But in stillness, you can no longer escape yourself. You meet your truth, and although this meeting can feel uncomfortable, it is the beginning of real self-awareness. Stillness also changes the dynamic of relationships. When you become still, you stop feeding unnecessary drama. You no longer feel compelled to respond immediately to every shift in someone's behavior. You stop assuming meaning in every silence, and instead allow space to reveal intention. You begin to trust what time and consistency will show you. A person's behavior becomes easier to read when you are not clouded by emotional noise. You see who reaches out without being prompted, who respects your boundaries, who mirrors your energy, who stays consistent even when life becomes difficult. Noise demands certainty right now. Stillness allows truth to unfold gradually, without pressure or projection. There is also a quiet strength in stillness that others feel, often without understanding why. When you are no longer reactive, you become unpredictable in the best way, not chaotic but sovereign. People sense that you cannot be manipulated by fear, flattery, or emotional pressure. They recognize that your attention is valuable because you do not give it impulsively. Your presence becomes heavier, more grounded, more magnetic. A man, especially, feels this difference deeply. Stillness in a woman does not make her passive, it makes her powerful. It reveals that she is guided by her inner compass rather than external noise, and this creates a sense of respect that words cannot command. Stillness teaches you patience, not the patience of waiting, but the patience of understanding that truth never emerges in chaos. It requires quiet space and openness. When your mind settles, when your emotions soften, when your breath deepens, you discover insights that noise could never reveal. You begin to navigate life not by force, but by clarity. You start seeing patterns you once overlooked, red flags you once justified, and opportunities you once missed. Stillness becomes a form of wisdom, and wisdom becomes your natural response to the world around you. To live with stillness is to move through life with more intention, more clarity, and more presence. It is an internal state that transforms how you perceive everything and everyone. In stillness, nothing needs to be forced, chased, or controlled because what is meant for you becomes visible without effort. It is in the quiet that life finally speaks. True attraction is not manufactured. It cannot be forced with words, actions, or appearances alone. The energy that draws someone in is subtle, often invisible to the eye, but deeply felt in the heart and sensed in the body. This energy comes not from external validation, not from performance or manipulation, but from self-mastery. Self-mastery is the foundation upon which natural magnetism is built. It is a quiet power, steady and unshakable, that moves through life without need or desperation, and it is this power that men cannot resist. Self-mastery begins with awareness. Awareness of one's emotions, desires, and triggers is the first step toward mastery. Many people live unconsciously, reacting to life as it happens, responding to external events, or chasing fleeting pleasures. They are ruled by impulses, fear, and attachment, and their energy fluctuates with every circumstance. Self-mastery, on the other hand, allows you to observe yourself without judgment, to notice when emotions arise, and to choose your response rather than be swept away by reaction. This inner discipline creates a sense of calm and stability that is inherently attractive. People, especially men, are drawn to those who are emotionally anchored because it mirrors a kind of security and maturity that they themselves may crave but rarely cultivate. The next layer of self-mastery is emotional control, not repression but understanding and management. It is the ability to feel deeply without being controlled by those feelings, to experience life fully while maintaining equilibrium. When a woman responds to a man from a place of self-awareness rather than insecurity, she becomes magnetic. Her laughter is not forced, her attention is not desperate, and her presence is not needy. Every gesture, every glance, every word carries the weight of someone who has integrated her own emotions rather than letting them dictate her actions. This does not mean she is detached or cold. It means she is conscious, deliberate, and grounded. Men sense this immediately. They feel it in her energy, and it pulls them closer without a single word being spoken. Self-mastery also means clarity of boundaries. A woman who has mastered herself knows what she will accept and what she will not, and she does not compromise these boundaries for approval or fear of loss. She knows her worth intrinsically and does not depend on validation from another person to feel complete. This clarity is magnetic because it communicates confidence without arrogance, strength without aggression. Men are naturally drawn to someone who embodies her own standards because it reflects a rare combination of power and authenticity. They feel safe approaching her, not because she is controllable, but because she is sovereign, whole, and unwavering in her sense of self. Another aspect of self-mastery is the control of attention. Attention is a form of energy, and where it goes, influence follows. A woman who has mastery over herself does not scatter her focus on every trivial detail, every slight, every imagined slight, or every fleeting worry about what others think. She invests her attention consciously, giving it fully to those and experiences that matter, while withholding it from distractions that dilute her energy. This selective focus not only enhances her productivity and presence, but also makes her irresistibly magnetic. A man senses that his presence with her is valued, that she is fully present, that she is not distracted by insecurity or neediness. This presence becomes irresistible because it is rare and precious. Self-mastery requires patience and discipline. It is cultivated slowly, through repeated choices to act in alignment with one's values, through conscious reflection, and through consistent self-observation. It is not a state that can be achieved overnight, but a lifelong practice. And yet, It does not create distance or coldness, it creates refinement. The energy of a self-mastered woman is warm, inviting, and confident without desperation. It is a force that draws rather than chases, that attracts naturally without effort, because it radiates authenticity and inner harmony. Men are instinctively drawn to this energy because it mirrors an ideal of balance and completeness they often feel they lack. Self-mastery also transforms how a woman handles challenges and adversity. Rather than reacting impulsively, she evaluates situations calmly, considers her options, and acts intentionally. She does not panic when life shifts, nor does she collapse under pressure. Her resilience is part of her magnetic appeal because it demonstrates a depth of character that words alone cannot convey. Men are drawn not just to beauty or charm, but to the sense of reliability, composure, and wisdom that comes from someone who is in command of herself. This magnetism grows not from what she says she can do, but from the quiet confidence that she has already mastered her inner world. Furthermore, self-mastery cultivates a natural charisma. When a woman is grounded, emotionally intelligent, and aware her energy aligns, her gestures are fluid, her voice carries authority without force, her presence fills a room without demanding attention. This charisma is not learned, not performed, it is a natural byproduct of self-mastery. Men feel it instinctively even if they cannot articulate why. It speaks to something deep in their consciousness, a recognition of harmony, strength, and autonomy. It is the kind of attraction that does not fade with time because it is rooted in the unshakable foundation of self rather than fleeting circumstance. In essence, self-mastery creates natural attraction because it transforms internal energy into external presence. It allows a woman to engage with the world from a place of alignment, calm, and clarity. Men are drawn to this presence not because of manipulation or strategy, but because it mirrors a power they recognize intuitively, a completeness they admire, and a magnetism they cannot resist. Every choice to master her emotions, focus her attention, uphold her boundaries, and act from awareness compounds this energy, creating a force that is both subtle and undeniable. The path to self-mastery is not easy, but it is transformative. It requires patience, honesty, discipline, and courage. Yet as each layer of self-control, awareness, and inner strength is developed, the magnetic force that emanates becomes more palpable. Men feel it without understanding it consciously. They are drawn not to perfection, not to performance, not to effortful pursuit, but to the effortless power of a woman who stands firmly in her own mastery. Radiating a presence that cannot be ignored, the confidence is often misunderstood. Most people assume it is loud, visible, and demonstrative. They picture someone who boasts, commands attention, or performs to be recognized. But true confidence is quiet. It is not a display for others, it is a state of being. It is the calm certainty of a person who knows her worth without needing to announce it, the inner assurance that does not bend under judgment, and the self-possession that allows life to flow without anxiety or overcompensation. This unspoken confidence is magnetic because it communicates power without force, security without insistence, and attraction without chase. A man senses it instinctively even if he cannot explain why, and it draws him closer with a subtle, undeniable pull. Unspoken confidence begins with self-knowledge. It emerges when a woman understands herself deeply, her values, desires, boundaries, strengths, and vulnerabilities, and she aligns her life with that understanding. She does not seek validation from others because she has already validated herself through introspection and acceptance. This self-awareness creates an energy that is both serene and powerful. When a woman walks through life from this grounded place, she does not need to perform to be noticed. She does not feel compelled to prove her worth, and she does not react with insecurity to a man's behavior. This creates an invisible gravitational pull, a subtle yet potent force that attracts attention naturally. One of the most compelling aspects of unspoken confidence is that it is felt more than it is seen. A man may not hear her declare her value or see her flaunt achievements, but he senses her presence through posture, tone, and calm energy. She does not over-explain, does not over-apologize, and does not overextend herself to gain approval. Her absence of desperation becomes her loudest statement, a quiet signal that she is complete on her own. There is an elegance in this restraint, a power in her calmness, and an allure in her independence. Men are drawn not to what she says, but to the energy she radiates, the feeling of stability, strength, and authenticity that surrounds her. Unspoken confidence also manifests in the ability to move through the world without fear of judgment. A woman who has mastered herself is unconcerned with how she is perceived because her sense of self is anchored internally rather than externally. She does not rely on compliments, attention, or validation to feel secure. Instead, she moves with ease, grace, and intentionality, and this freedom from external influence is irresistible. Men sense that her choices, her presence, and her actions are not dictated by need but by inner clarity. They are drawn to the authenticity, the certainty, and the independence that unspoken confidence embodies. Another layer of unspoken confidence lies in emotional sovereignty. She does not chase affection or approval, she does not panic in the face of distance, and she does not allow uncertainty to provoke insecurity. Her emotional life is her own, and she responds rather than reacts. This stability becomes magnetic because it communicates safety and maturity. A man feels the difference immediately. He recognizes that she is not easily shaken, that her energy is consistent, and that her attraction is not contingent on his behavior. There is a strength in this calmness, a pull that is subtle yet persistent, and a magnetism that cannot be faked or forced. Unspoken confidence is also about boundaries, clarity, and self-respect. A woman who knows her worth does not compromise her standards to please others or to gain attention. She allows a man to come closer on his own terms without pressuring or manipulating him. Her energy communicates that she is available, not desperate, desirable, not dependent, open, not needy. This balance creates intrigue and desire because it requires a man to show up consciously, to invest effort, and to act from his own authenticity. Confidence does not demand, it invites. It does not beg, it entices. It is a silent pull that encourages him to meet her in a space of respect and genuine interest. Presence is another critical aspect of unspoken confidence. When a woman is fully grounded in her own being, her presence is felt immediately. She does not need to speak to command attention. She does not need to act to create influence. Men are drawn to the energy she radiates, the calm certainty, the warmth, the balance, and the self-possession. Her gaze is steady but not invasive. Her voice is composed but not overbearing. Her energy is alive but not frantic. This presence is magnetic because it mirrors the kind of strength and alignment that a man intuitively recognizes and admires. Furthermore, unspoken confidence carries a sense of mystery. A woman who is grounded in herself does not feel compelled to reveal every thought, feeling, or story at once. She allows space, she maintains subtlety, and she engages without desperation. This mystery is compelling because it creates curiosity and longing. A man senses that there is depth to her being, a richness that cannot be grasped immediately or superficially. The pull comes not from pursuit, but from recognition. The recognition that she is a whole, autonomous individual whose energy is worth exploring. Finally, unspoken confidence grows from consistency. It is reinforced every time a woman chooses her own alignment over reactive need, every time she honors her boundaries, every time she responds with awareness rather than reactivity. Each moment of self-possession compounds, creating an invisible aura that men feel long before they understand it consciously. This confidence does not waver based on circumstance. It persists because it is rooted in mastery of self, not in the approval of others. It is the energy of someone who knows who she is, where she stands, and what she brings into the world. And this energy is naturally magnetic. In essence, unspoken confidence pulls him closer because it communicates completeness, authenticity, and strength without demand. It creates a space in which he is free to approach, to invest, and to recognize the depth of her presence. It is not about manipulation or strategy. It is about embodiment, awareness, and sovereignty. Men are drawn instinctively, unconsciously, and irresistibly because this confidence resonates with a deep recognition of power, stability, and allure, and it awakens a desire that cannot be ignored in a world where immediacy has become a habit, where messages are expected to be answered instantly and presence is measured by constant attention. The value of space is often overlooked. Yet desire, genuine longing, and attraction do not thrive in constant proximity or ceaseless availability. They grow in absence, in breathing room, in the deliberate cultivation of distance that allows the heart and mind to feel, reflect, and appreciate. Space is not neglect, it is a form of respect, both for oneself and for the other. It is a quiet force that creates tension, curiosity, and yearning. When used wisely, it strengthens desire in ways that pursuit and pressure never can. Many people fear giving space because they confuse it with disinterest or rejection. They assume that if they step back, the connection will weaken or the other person will lose interest. Yet the opposite is true. When space is maintained with clarity and intentionality, it becomes a canvas for reflection and appreciation. A man, when not constantly engulfed by attention or availability, begins to notice the nuances he might otherwise overlook. He begins to feel the absence of presence, the gaps that call his awareness inward. He begins to recognize the value of what he cannot constantly grasp. In this way, space becomes a catalyst for emotional intensity, a subtle reminder of what matters and why it matters. Space allows the mind to process, to imagine, and to anticipate. Desire is not a static feeling. It is cultivated in the tension between presence and absence. When a woman gives space, she creates an environment where a man can consider her qualities, reflect on her energy, and imagine her in ways that constant proximity cannot inspire. He begins to notice her laughter, the cadence of her voice, the way her energy lingers even when she is not physically present. This imagination, fueled by absence, ignites curiosity and deepens emotional investment. In essence, space gives desire room to breathe, to grow, and to mature beyond superficial attraction. Another aspect of space is its role in self-sovereignty. When a woman allows space in her interactions, she signals that she is complete on her own. She does not need constant reassurance or attention to validate her worth. She has her own life, her own purpose, and her own priorities. This self-possession is magnetic because it shifts the dynamic from pursuit to mutual respect. A man senses that she is not available for manipulation, for distraction, or for convenience. He senses that she is intentional, that her presence is a choice rather than a default. This understanding awakens desire because it challenges him to rise to her level, to match her energy, and to show up consciously rather than take her for granted. Space also strengthens desire by encouraging emotional independence. When someone becomes accustomed to constant attention, their appreciation often diminishes because familiarity breeds complacency. By creating distance, a woman allows the man to confront his own emotions, to recognize what he truly feels without immediate gratification or the comfort of constant presence. This confrontation cultivates longing, clarity, and a deeper understanding of the value of the connection. Desire thrives when it is not satiated instantly, when the heart must reach for what it wants, and when the mind is given time to process and elevate feelings beyond surface attraction. It is important to note that space is not about detachment or coldness. It is not about withdrawal as punishment or as a means of manipulation. True space is conscious and deliberate. It is grounded in self-awareness, clarity, and respect. When space is offered in this way, it communicates confidence rather than insecurity. It communicates that one is in control of her own life and her own energy. It communicates that connection is valued, but it is not demanded or forced. This approach cultivates intrigue, admiration, and a natural pull that intensifies emotional desire. Space also cultivates appreciation through perspective. Absence allows a man to see what he takes for granted when a woman is constantly available. It highlights the subtleties of her energy, the way she carries herself, the warmth of her attention, the quality of her presence. He begins to notice patterns of kindness, moments of insight, and the depth of her awareness. These observations often go unnoticed in constant proximity, but distance sharpens perception. The mind begins to attach significance to details, and the heart begins to recognize value, both of which strengthen desire. Patience is another gift of space. By allowing intervals between interactions, a woman encourages a man to develop his own emotional rhythm. He learns that desire is cultivated, not instantaneously satisfied. He discovers that earning attention, creating connection, and investing emotionally require intention and effort. This process deepens his investment and strengthens emotional bonds because desire grows most powerfully when it is built gradually and consciously rather than consumed impulsively. Moreover, space creates a rhythm in interaction that is compelling and natural. Constant presence can flatten the dynamic between two people, reducing excitement and diluting energy. Distance introduces tension, anticipation, and the possibility of longing, which are essential elements of attraction. Men respond to this rhythm instinctively. They feel the pull of absence, the push of curiosity, and the subtle draw of a woman whose energy is balanced between availability and autonomy. Space, when used wisely, transforms the dynamic from routine interaction into a dance of energy, desire, and mutual awareness. Ultimately, space is a tool for cultivating respect, autonomy, and emotional resonance. It is not about pushing someone away, it is about creating the conditions in which attraction can flourish naturally and sustainably. It encourages reflection, deepens appreciation, and fosters longing. It reminds a man that connection is not automatic, that attention is precious, and that desire is something to be nurtured, not taken for granted. When a woman understands the power of space, she gains mastery over the rhythm of attraction, allowing desire to build organically rather than being artificially stimulated. She demonstrates confidence and self-possession while inviting a man to engage with intention, awareness, and emotional presence. The tension created by absence is not emptiness. It is fertile ground for yearning, recognition, and the awakening of deep emotional longing. Emotional cleanliness is one of the most underestimated qualities in human interaction, yet it is perhaps the most magnetic. Most people carry the weight of past experiences, unresolved conflicts, and unprocessed emotions into every relationship they engage in. These unresolved feelings act like invisible baggage, creating turbulence in interactions, clouding perception, and diminishing natural attraction. Emotional cleanliness is the practice of cultivating clarity within, releasing resentment, detaching from unnecessary drama, and allowing the heart to operate unburdened. It is not about perfection or denial, it is about awareness, release, and conscious alignment. When a woman embodies this clarity, her energy becomes magnetic because it is light, free, and effortlessly attractive to those who can feel it. At its core, emotional cleanliness begins with self-awareness. It requires looking honestly at one's emotions without judgment, identifying the roots of past pain, and understanding how these emotions manifest in daily interactions. Most people live unconsciously, reacting to triggers and repeating patterns of old wounds. They may unknowingly project insecurity, anger, or fear onto others, which creates tension and repels rather than attracts. Emotional cleanliness demands that a woman observe these tendencies, recognize the patterns, and consciously choose not to let them dominate her presence. In doing so, she cultivates a form of inner serenity that draws people in naturally without effort or pretense. Releasing resentment is a major pillar of emotional cleanliness. Holding on to grudges or past hurts contaminates energy and creates vibrations that are heavy and exhausting for others. A woman who can forgive, not necessarily to condone the actions of others, but to liberate herself from emotional toxicity, projects a sense of freedom and resilience. This freedom is magnetic because it communicates strength without aggression, compassion without weakness, and security without defensiveness. Men sense this energy intuitively. They feel the weight of unresolved emotions in others unconsciously, and they are instinctively drawn to the clarity and balance of someone who carries no unnecessary emotional burden. Another aspect of emotional cleanliness is detachment from drama. Drama often masquerades as passion, intensity, or engagement, but in truth, it is chaos disguised as connection. Emotional cleanliness requires discerning when situations are emotionally productive and when they are manipulative, reactive, or excessive. A woman who refuses to be swept into unnecessary conflicts, who maintains calm amidst chaos, and who chooses her emotional investment wisely exudes an energy that is both stabilizing and magnetic. Men are attracted not to drama itself, but to the peace and balance that comes from a woman who navigates life with emotional intelligence, who does not react impulsively, and who embodies a grounded presence. Emotional cleanliness also involves the conscious practice of self-regulation. It is the ability to feel deeply without being consumed by emotion, to process experiences internally without projecting them unnecessarily onto others. When a woman masters her internal state, she responds with clarity rather than reacts impulsively. This creates a powerful magnetic effect because it communicates emotional maturity. A man feels it instinctively. He senses that she is not seeking validation, that she is not driven by fear or neediness, and that her energy is steady, reliable, and balanced. Emotional cleanliness transforms every interaction into a space of calm resonance rather than turbulence, which naturally pulls others closer. Letting go of expectations is another crucial dimension of emotional cleanliness. Often attraction falters not because of lack of connection, but because of unmet expectations. When a woman carries rigid ideas of how others should behave, she becomes reactive, controlling, or resentful when these expectations are not met. Emotional cleanliness allows her to release these attachments, to accept people as they are without needing to change them. and to remain present in the moment without imposing emotional pressure. This non-attachment is magnetic because it conveys freedom, authenticity, and self-sufficiency. Men are drawn to someone who is not tethered to outcomes because such presence creates space for genuine engagement rather than performance. The practice of emotional cleanliness extends to communication as well. Words carry energy, and when emotions are tangled, speech can unintentionally transmit negativity, insecurity, or anxiety. A woman who has cultivated emotional clarity speaks with intentionality, calmness, and authenticity. Her words carry weight, but not burden. They resonate without demanding. They express truth without aggression. This form of communication is inherently attractive because it signals alignment between inner and outer states. Men are drawn not only to what she says, but to the energy behind her words, the consistency between emotion, thought, and expression. Self-respect is also intertwined with emotional cleanliness. By choosing to maintain clarity and composure, a woman signals that she values her own energy and will not allow it to be diluted by unnecessary negativity. This self-respect is magnetic because it communicates that her presence is precious, that her attention is selective, and that her emotional world is sovereign. A man recognizes the rarity of this energy. He senses that it cannot be demanded, coerced, or taken for granted. It must be approached with care, attention, and authenticity. Furthermore, emotional cleanliness fosters resilience. Life is inevitably filled with challenges, disappointments, and unexpected turns. A woman who maintains emotional clarity can navigate adversity without losing herself, without projecting chaos onto others, and without allowing circumstances to destabilize her presence. This resilience is magnetic because it embodies strength without rigidity, stability without stagnation, and depth without heaviness. Men are drawn to the energy of someone who has mastered her inner world because it mirrors qualities they instinctively respect, aspire to, and feel safe engaging with. Ultimately, emotional cleanliness is about presence, clarity, and freedom. It creates an invisible force that draws others toward the energy of authenticity, stability, and maturity. When a woman releases past burdens, regulates her emotions, avoids unnecessary drama, communicates with alignment, and respects her inner world, she becomes magnetic, not because of superficial charm, but because of the purity of her energy. Her energy resonates, her presence feels effortless, and her essence invites connection without pressure, expectation, or compromise. The magnetic quality of emotional cleanliness is subtle yet profound. It is the energy that cannot be fabricated, the presence that cannot be forced, and the attraction that cannot be manipulated. Men feel it intuitively, sensing the difference between turbulence and serenity, between projection and authenticity, between heaviness and freedom. Emotional cleanliness transforms interactions from ordinary exchanges into spaces of resonance, curiosity, and desire. A woman who embodies this clarity is naturally captivating. She draws attention without seeking it, inspires engagement without pushing, and fosters connection without demanding it. Men are instinctively pulled toward the purity of her energy because it reflects balance, integrity, and autonomy. Her presence communicates that she is unburdened, self-aware, and aligned with her own essence, creating a natural, irresistible magnetism. In a world obsessed with doing, achieving, and proving, presence is often overlooked, yet it is the truest form of power. Presence is not about action, words, or appearance. It is the quality of being fully here, fully aware, and fully aligned with oneself in each moment. It is the ability to inhabit one's own energy without distraction, pretense, or need for approval. While many chase influence through noise, gestures, or manipulation, presence exerts an invisible pull that cannot be forced or fabricated. It is magnetic because it resonates deeply with others, communicates authenticity, and creates a sense of grounded authority that draws people in naturally. Presence begins with self-awareness. A person who is present knows herself intimately, her values, boundaries, emotions, and intentions. She does not allow past regrets or future anxieties to dominate her energy. She notices her thoughts without being consumed by them, and she navigates her emotions without being ruled by them. This internal clarity allows her to occupy space fully without distraction or overcompensation. Men, in particular, are instinctively drawn to this kind of energy. They sense the difference between someone who is reactive and scattered and someone who is anchored, composed, and fully attentive. Presence communicates strength, calm, and authenticity in ways that words or actions alone cannot. The power of presence is subtle but undeniable. It is not a force that demands attention, rather it naturally commands it. When a woman embodies presence, she engages with the world fully. She listens with intention rather than waiting for her turn to speak. She observes the energy in a room, noticing subtleties that others miss. Her gaze is steady, her voice measured, and her energy balanced. Men are drawn to this because presence creates a sense of safety, clarity, and intrigue. They feel a connection not merely to what she says or does, but to the energy she radiates, the energy of someone fully alive and fully in command of herself. Presence also amplifies attraction because it reflects confidence without needing to declare it. Many people attempt to appear confident through words, gestures, or status symbols, but these displays are often compensations for internal insecurity. True presence is the opposite. It is quiet, grounded, and self-contained. A woman who is present does not need to prove her worth or seek validation. Her energy simply exists and draws others to it naturally. Men sense this distinction instinctively. They are pulled not by effort, persuasion, or performance, but by their effortless alignment of energy that presence provides. Another dimension of presence is the mastery of attention. Where attention goes, energy flows. A woman who is present directs her attention intentionally, noticing what matters and letting go of distractions. She is not scattered by irrelevant drama, the opinions of others, or internal noise. This focused energy creates a resonance that is magnetic. Men respond to this clarity because it communicates intentionality and priority. They feel that time spent in her presence is meaningful, that engagement with her requires thought and attention, and that her energy is not given lightly or taken for granted. This scarcity is not manipulative. It is natural, arising from alignment and conscious self-management. Presence also allows a woman to navigate social and emotional dynamics with poise. She responds rather than reacts, observes rather than assumes, and engages rather than chases. This quality fosters respect and curiosity. Men instinctively recognize the difference between someone who is present and someone who is reactive or needy. Presence communicates that she is sovereign, self-contained, and aligned with her own standards. It signals that connection with her is a choice, not an obligation, and that she brings awareness and clarity to every interaction. Moreover, presence enhances emotional intelligence. When a woman is fully aware and present, she perceives subtle cues, unspoken emotions, and underlying tensions that others overlook. She can navigate conversations and situations with insight, responding in ways that foster connection rather than conflict. This emotional attunement is magnetic because it communicates understanding, empathy, and grounded authority. Men sense the depth of perception and feel drawn towards someone who can hold space without being overwhelmed or consumed by it. Presence also deepens intimacy. Intimacy is not merely physical or verbal, it is energetic. When a woman is fully present, she creates an environment where others feel seen, heard, and acknowledged. This presence allows men to open up, express themselves authentically, and engage on a deeper level. Emotional and energetic depth emerges not from words alone, but from the quality of attention and awareness she brings to every interaction. This magnetic energy cannot be feigned. It comes from alignment, self-awareness, and the cultivation of inner stillness. Another aspect of presence is resilience. Life is unpredictable, and circumstances often test patience, composure, and clarity. A woman who is present navigates challenges without being swept away by panic, fear, or overreaction. She remains grounded, centered, and intentional. This stability communicates power because it reflects mastery over self rather than circumstance. Men are drawn to this strength instinctively, recognizing the rarity and value of someone who can maintain composure, clarity, and alignment regardless of external pressures. Presence cultivates a subtle authority that is felt rather than commanded. It does not need to dominate or control, but it naturally influences those around it. Men are attracted to this energy because it communicates sovereignty and alignment without need or pressure. Presence allows a woman to lead without force, to inspire without demanding, and to draw attention without performance. It is a magnetic force because it resonates on a level deeper than words, appearances, or social constructs. Ultimately, presence is power because it integrates self-awareness, clarity, focus, emotional intelligence, and composure into a coherent energy that others cannot ignore. It transforms ordinary interactions into spaces of resonance, attention, and subtle influence. Men are drawn not merely to what she says or does, but to the essence of who she is. The unshakable alignment, the calm authority, and the authentic energy that presence embodies. Presence creates depth, intrigue, and magnetism, and it elevates every encounter to a level beyond superficial attraction.